Hey, I'm Tyler from Bike Rumor, and I'm here in the SRAM room at Bike Connection Agency. And since SRAM now has a complete line all the way from the very highest end to the very lowest level of Eagle 12-speed groups, we thought it was a great time to kind of highlight the differences and run through the entire line, component by component, to show you how each one steps up from one level to the next. So we're going to start with cranks. The newest one is the NX, and this is introduced to be a sub $400 group for the entire group, which is crazy. Starting with the cranks, we have a 6000 series forged aluminum arm with a stamped steel chainring. So this chainring looks really minimalist, but it's steel, so it's a little bit heavier than the alloy ones. Okay, it's still dub. All of them use their direct mount. All of them now use their dub spindles, which fits into an almost 30 mil. It's like 29 point something mil. But they have a bottom bracket solution for any type of frame. And they also offer a fat bike spindle width so that you can run the dub cranks on both regular mountain bikes and fat bikes. So that's the NX series at the lowest level. Next up is the GX, which is still a forged crank arm, but it's a 7000 series aluminum, and it's noticeably lighter as soon as you pick it up. So this chainring looks a lot bigger. Compare the two, this one looks like it would be a heavier thing, but this is a stamped aluminum chainring. So it is a little bit lighter, and yeah, that's GX. So then we move up to where you get into carbon arms. So at the XO level, you get a carbon arm with a foam core inside. So it's not hollow carbon, it has a foam core, and that's meant to make it just a little bit stronger because XO is aimed at kind of that enduro trail riding group. Here you get a CNC'd aluminum chainring, so it's still a little bit bigger looking than steel, but it is lighter, and you can see some of the CNC finishing on that chainring. Then you go to the top level, which is the XX1, and so it's a very similar chainring. There is a little bit more machining in the chainring as well, so these sections in here are just a little bit deeper. The backs actually do look different. You can kind of see there's a little bit more room there, but the point is these are still the lighter chainrings. Now with these arms you get a hollow carbon arm and you get additional machining, and so I'm going to show you where that is. This is the XX1 level. So where the spindle differs on the XX1 versus the XO is that these sections in here that are a little bit more hollowed out, you can see it's a little bit scalloped. Those are the additional machining you get to get a lighter spindle on the XX1. This is also fully one piece on XX1, whereas with XO you have a spindle bonded into a separate insert in here. So all in all, you get just little refinements like that that makes the XX1 the lightest group possible, and it's that way because it's aimed at the cross-country racing, but it is still plenty durable for trail and some all-mountain use. So those are the cranks. Next, let's look at derailleurs. So with the derailleurs at the NX level, you have basic construction. You have steel pins with rivets holding them in place, and all steel hardware, stamped steel pulley cages on both the inside and the outside. And where the GX upgrades from there is you still have steel hardware, but now there are bushings inside and they are clipped in. So it's just small refinement in the movement, and you have a little bit more refinement on the pulley cages. Where XO upgrades is a little bit different material for some of the composite, and you can see the shapes are a little bit different in the parallelogram pieces there that link everything together. You also jump from regular steel to stainless steel pivot points, and still all of that's moving on bushings now instead of just pressed in and riveted in. C-clips holding it in, and you jump to an alloy cage plate to save a little bit of weight. When you bump up to the top level, XX1, you get a little bit of tie hardware for some of the bolts. You have stainless steel pins that are, again, C-clipped in, floating on bushings, so it just moves really, really nice, and you save a little bit more weight by going to a carbon outer plate for the pulley cage. Controlling those derailleurs is the shifter, obviously, and so at the basic NX level, we're going to start with this guy here. You have all plastic construction, basically. Plastic cover, plastic shifter levers, everything's plastic. So what separates this one, though, is that actually when you get to the direct mount item, as opposed to the one with the fixed clamp, is this is the lightest shifter they make. So if you actually wanted to save as much weight as possible, and we're talking like a couple of grams, you would go with the NX shifter. The NX shifter is also the only one that's offered with an integrated clamp, and this is because it's really meant for entry-level bikes. So in this case, you're probably not going to be getting matchmaker or hydraulic lever brakes, or hydraulic brakes, not a hydraulic lever. It's also the only one with like this nifty little external cable port. So it's probably actually the easiest one to install too, if you're adding it after the fact. All of these shifters across the entire range also come in EMTBs, which is single click only. So whereas most of them you can run through multiple gears at once, the EMTB shifters have one click only in both directions. And that's because you have that extra torque from the motor driving that chain. So if you were to shift 3 or 4 clicks at once and try and throw that chain up, that extra torque might actually bog things up or risk breaking a chain or damaging the cassette in some way. So real quick recap, NX shifter, all plastic. For the direct mount matchmaker type, it's got this nifty little top plate cover for sliding the cable in or out, and it is the lightest one they make. What you lack is any kind of adjustment here. So let's move up to GX, where you end up with a still plastic cover, but a little bit of alloy on the bottom, still a plastic lever. You get multi-click, single click, and matchmaker mount only. XO steps up to a little bit better materials, and you add the adjustment. And this is one of my favorite features because I like to have this in about there for the starting point. And so you loosen this, you twist it, it's got indicators so that you can kind of remember where your favorite settings are, and you get a just better fit and finish on the materials. Internally, they all work exactly the same, and most of the internals on all of these are exactly the same. It's the externals. So when you step to XX1, you get a carbon top plate and the same adjustment, carbon main thumb lever, and just again, fit and finish, gold, nice touch, and that's it. So those are the shifters. Okay, now we're going to talk about the cassettes. So at the NX level, this is kind of the innovation for the Eagle group lately, is that it is the only one that fits on a standard splined free hub body. I keep wanting to call it Shimano free hub body, but I don't think SRAM would like that. So it's a spline free hub body, your typical free hub body. And there's a few reasons why they did that. The biggest one is cost, and cost on both levels. So the bikes that this is going to come on are going to be bikes that are almost certainly speccing a wheel with a spline free hub body. The XD driver that the others require costs a little bit more to make, and so when you're talking about an entry-level bike that's probably sub $1,000 or right there in that range, you're not going to get an XD driver body. So they had to make this work, and all you're really losing is one tooth on the smallest cog. So instead of a 10 tooth on these, you end up with an 11 tooth here. It fits on a normal free body. It is a independent pieces. So every cog up to this last cluster of 3 is a separate cog with plastic spacers in between. So you slide it on just like a regular cassette. And that is another cost-saving thing. So it costs a lot of money, and it takes a lot of time to rivet it together, which is the next level up. So this lets them save money, but it's kind of a heavy piece. So when you move up to GX, you get a pinned construction with steel cogs there, and the big 50 is an aluminum cog. But you can see it's a pinned construction. And so that means they're making each cog separately, they're putting the frame in there, and they're pinning it all together, which you can kind of see in between. At the XO level and the XX level, you're talking about an almost identical cassette. It's really just the finish that's different. So here you have the smooth black, which smooth black is not necessarily the full technical name for it, but it's a very similar finish to what you see on the forks behind me, and it's meant to both increase durability and longevity and corrosion resistance. It's a fully machined steel cluster that comes from one block of steel is machined to create everything that you see in black here. And you can see from behind, the big 50 tooth is aluminum again, and it is pressed together and becomes just one piece and much, much lighter. When you go to XX1, virtually identical, but you get this gold tinitride finish that has just a little bit extra corrosion resistance. And then you get a black finish on the alloy cog, but it's still one-piece steel machined out with a aluminum cog pressed on the backside. Last but not least is the chains. And from talking to some of the product managers, the chain, they say, is actually one of the most important pieces to upgrade in terms of durability. From the lowest end to the highest end, if you spend a little bit more, sometimes a lot more, you can get a chain that might last up to 2 times as long, all else being equal. So at the base level, you have the NX chain, which is solid pins, but it's still got all of the same shaping. It's just a little bit different material. It doesn't have the same finishing on it as some of the other ones. So you still get the Eagle specific quick link, and it is designed specifically for the SRAM 12-speed stuff, as all of them are. As you start moving up the range, you get a little bit different material. You start getting into some hollow pins, which you can see through there. I'm totally messing up their nice smooth display. Once you get to the XO level, you get the black chain, which has the same essential coating as what we showed before on the cassettes and the fork stanchions behind me. And what this does is it drastically increases the longevity of the chain, the durability, the smoothness, and adds some corrosion resistance as well. At the top level is the X01 Eagle, which is the gold tinitride finish. You can see the quick connectors even have some of the finish on it. And hollow pin, this is the lightest chain. It's also the most durable because that tinitride adds an extra level of corrosion resistance to the whole system. So as you move up and down the range of the SRAM product line for Eagle, it's not just the materials that are the difference, it's also the manufacturing process. So when you go from the lowest end to the highest end, you end up with more and more precise manufacturing methods and tighter tolerances. And that's not a knock against the low-end stuff. It still works great. But it's designed to hit a certain price point, which means it has to be mass manufactured very quickly. When you get to the XO and the XX levels, you get tighter tolerances and more precise assembly methods and manufacturing methods for everything. And what that is a product that is going to last you longer. It's going to work better for the whole lifespan. It's not going to develop any slop. And let's face it, we all know that the lower end products don't last as long, and that's why. So part of that cost is not just the materials going to titanium and stainless hardware. It's also the time and energy it takes to put those things together. So that's the SRAM Eagle line. I hope you enjoyed that info. Be sure to check the full post for some photos and a little bit more information, plus a link to actual weights on our scale of every component so you can see a full weight comparison from NX all the way up to XX1. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit like and subscribe, and join us on BikeRumor.com.